So, welcome, Marissa. I am very excited to have a special guest here tonight because we are going to be talking about bloating and we're going to be talking about just gut health. And Marissa is a gut health expert, and I am going to let her introduce herself and explain to everybody here a little bit about what your background is, where you came from, why you're here, and then we're going to get into all the awesomeness of gut health. So, take it
Yay.
away.
I love it. Well, thank you for having me. I could talk gut health all day, every day. So any chance I get to talk about it, I will jump at it. I actually had gut issues from the day I was born into my 30s. So 30 plus years of feeling fairly miserable, but just putting on a happy face because all the doctors just told me it was normal and there's nothing you can do about it. So I really went down a path of like, this can't be right. I've got to figure this out. And after I probably took 8 to 10 years to figure out my own issues, I decided I need to help other people with this because it's so common. I think the latest stat is like 80 million people in America have gut issues, which is like it's really upsetting because there's always a solution, but our current medical system isn't just really up to speed on the gut. So I started the Happy Belly method, which is how I work with primarily women, and we do gut microbiome testing. I base it on my 4 pillars, which is, every health issue, no matter what you're going through, I promise you it can get better if you really take into account these 4 pillars. Nutrition, like getting your optimum amount of nutrients, not just your bare minimum amount. The gut microbiome, which is why I always test the gut microbiome so we can see exactly what's going on, balancing the good bacteria, and detoxing the body, not like a big crazy detox, but just making sure that your detox system is working properly so you can get the toxins out of your body. Because if you have toxins in your body, it's kind of always going to be fighting. And then working on the nervous system, which is a huge piece that I think is really often overlooked. So basing everything on those 4 pillars, that is how I go about any health issue, mostly gut issues, but really any issue. And I know, Lucy, you kind of have some similar sort of pillars that you go through with your weight loss as well.
Exactly. And I am so happy to hear that one of your actual pillars is the nervous system, because
Ah.
that is huge and it really makes a big difference. I would love to go back a little bit to what your experience was. You mentioned you've had gut issues since the day you were born. What ended up happening with that? How did you figure it out, and what did you end up finding?
So I always felt like I was going to throw up. Like when I was born, I had really bad colic. Like I didn't stop crying for a few months. I don't know how my parents didn't just like leave me on the fireman doorstep. But then as a child, as a teenager, I always felt like I was going to throw up. And I guess I got used to it, didn't really think about it much. I had really bad acne, like to the point where I didn't even leave the house sometimes. I was in tears. I had really bad anxiety, teens, 20s, into my 30s. Like I went to so much therapy to try and, address my anxiety. And I went to various doctors, and I am not kidding you. One doctor, I told him all my symptoms, and he literally said to me, "I don't know, you must just be defective."
Oh my gosh.
And that was it, and gave me a
Mm.
bill and sent me on my way. So I,
Wow.
at one point, was like, this cannot be right. And so back then, there really wasn't a lot of, like, I don't even think Instagram was a thing back then. I don't even think we had really social media that much. So I really had to start reading books and just testing things out on my own. And that's what I think that a lot of people start doing, is like randomly testing this and that. And it becomes this loop of like, okay, let's test this thing. It doesn't work. Get frustrated. Okay, let's test the next thing. And this is just this loop that I think happens with so many things, including weight loss, but really with like anxiety, with bloating, with heartburn, with bowel issues. There's all these things, and it's like you're always trying the next thing. And what we were never taught is that there's always a root cause. Always, always, always. It's like in the medical system, sometimes they'll tell you something is idiopathic. They don't know what causes it. There's not really a cause. It just happens. And I'm like,
Mm.
that's not really a thing. Like there's always a root cause underneath. And that's what I finally figured out. And once you can figure out your root cause and address it there, you can stop putting all these band-aids on your issues. Like all these things that everyone is doing, all the medications, the over-the-counter meds, all these flashy things we see on Instagram, trying different diets, cutting out foods. These are all band-aids. And once you figure out that you can stop putting the band-aids on and just address the problem at the root and then build those 4 pillars, you can pretty much address any health issue that way.
Amazing. And my heart goes out to you for what you had to go through for your childhood and your parents, of course. But I mean, it just sounds pretty horrible. So some of the things that you had mentioned was acne when you were a kid, and anxiety, and I know colic when you were really little, always feeling nauseous and
Always.
yeah. So you had these symptoms, and now it sounds like these were all connected
Yes.
and related to gut health. So tell
Yes.
us more about that and what you found it to be caused from.
Well, which I think is like such good news is that all these symptoms, like a lot of the time, all the symptoms that someone comes to me with can all be addressed at the same time. So instead of going to your skin doctor and your, hormone doctor and your heart doctor, we're looking at the root cause, which is normally one kind of general thing, and then all your symptoms start to go away. Like I've had clients that have had lifelong eczema. They never, ever, ever thought that it was related to their gut. And sure enough, their lifelong eczema goes away, or lifelong migraines, or whatever it might be. So one of the things that people don't really know, and this is on the questionnaire that I have when people join the Happy Belly Method, were you born C-section and were you breastfed? So these are the 2 things that start your health life. And they're very overlooked in our medical system. So if you're born C-section, you don't go through the birth canal. Going through the birth canal, the baby's mouth is open and they get all the bacteria from the mother, from the vagina, and then they turn and get it from the anus. And that's how the baby's gut microbiome is started. So if you never go through that, then you don't have that kind of starting baseline of bacteria. What should be done is a swabbing of the mom and then swab inside the baby's cheeks so they get inoculated with all the bacteria. But our medical system does not do that, which is really sad because sometimes a C-section is necessary, right? The second thing is breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is like the most important thing you can do for your baby. And for some reason, doctors have told mothers that they don't have to do it. And for some reason, they told my mom not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the very first milk, I call it milk, but the very first liquid that comes out is called colostrum. And that is what seals up the baby's leaky gut. So babies have leaky gut because they need their system to be permeable so that when they're in the womb, they can absorb all the mother's nutrients. If you never get that colostrum, now you're just born with this permeable gut that doesn't get closed up. And unfortunately, I was never breastfed, and that's sort of the start of my issues. I didn't realize that I had a big gluten intolerance, and that is related to leaky gut. And then on top of it, you don't get the enzymes, the nutrients. Like it's really cool because breast milk is actually tailored toward the baby's needs. Like the mom's body can sense what the baby needs, and it changes depending on the needs of the baby. So you're not getting the very baseline nutrients and digestive enzymes and all these things that you need to thrive. So Then I piled on top of it just a terrible diet for most of my life. Like, my mom is a single mom and she cooked me a wonderful dinner. But for the rest of it, I was on my own and I was eating Pop Tarts and Fruity Pebbles and mac and cheese and candy from the grocery store. And I never knew. My mom didn't know. This was 70s and 80s. Like, it was all, we didn't really just talk about healthy food options and things back then. So when I already was born with leaky gut, already was kind of depleted in a lot of ways, and then I just piled bad food upon it until then I got into the restaurant business and drank and ate everything that was put in front of me for a couple of decades, staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning and eating just everything. So it got worse and worse and worse. And there really just wasn't any information out there. So by the time I felt so terrible that I went to a few doctors and got no answers, that's what took me down this road of like, okay, I've got to figure this out. And my first step was stopping gluten. And it was like, it was the first time in my life I didn't think I was going to throw up.
Wow.
Yeah. But what I didn't know then that I know now is just cutting the foods doesn't solve anything. You've got to do the repair work because there's so much damage done. You cut the foods for a small amount of time, do the repair work, and then the ideal thing is to be able to add everything back in and basically eat whatever you want when your gut is really strong.
Amazing. Amazing. So you discovered that because of the leaky gut that you had kind of like right from the start, then that kind of created this gluten intolerance combined with the terrible diet, which, typical American diet. It's how I grew up too.
Mhm.
And then combined with when you were an adult, your experience with the restaurant business. It sounds like, really hard on the system, on the nervous system with the late nights, the food, the drinks, and everything just created this perfect storm for your
Yes,
your
exactly.
guts.
Yeah.
What was like the turning point, like the end point of like, this has got to change?
Yeah. So I went down the trial and error path for a long time. And then I went to nutrition school. So I quit the restaurant business and just wanted to make this my full-time passion priority. And I went to nutrition school. I got a certification in digestive health and started really learning what actually works, like what they don't teach
Mhm.
doctors. And I started doing this gut microbiome testing. And that's when everything changed because I work with the lab. And I swear with every test, I don't know, I've done a couple hundred tests. I swear with every test, I learned something new about the body. It is complicated.
Mhm.
Like, the body is so amazing. Everything that has to go right for us to feel good. And there are so many little moving parts that if we don't get like a clear picture of what's actually going on in your body, we're all just trying sort of cookie cutter things, which is what I did for so many years. So that's really when I started to dial things in, was doing the gut microbiome testing.
Mm.
Because if you can't see what's going on, you are literally guessing and just trial and erroring, trial and erroring. So once you can see what's going on, you can have targeted foods, targeted supplements, targeted behaviors that actually will move the needle and help balance what's going on in your gut. Because I always say it's your digestive blueprint, because every single person has a unique gut microbiome. It's as unique as your fingerprint. So there are no two people that would have the exact same protocol. Like, every person has a different microbiome, so everybody would have a different protocol.
Yeah, exactly. And for those that are here tonight, please feel free to drop any questions or
Yeah,
comments or thoughts in the chat.
yeah,
Because, if something comes to your mind, if you resonate with something, if you have a question, drop in the chat. We will see that.
yeah.
So, okay. I was just in a conversation with somebody this morning. And I had reached out to her just to check on her, just someone in my world. And she sent me some pictures of her bloating. And
Mm.
it was like, she has no idea. I asked her, do you have any ideas of what's causing this? What's triggering it? Nope. She just is just like in a constant state of bloatedness, and it's pretty bad bloated.
Yeah.
So, for the woman that is listening right now and is like, yeah, I am experiencing this bloating. What am I supposed to do with it? What's causing it? What do you have to say to those ladies?
And bloating is probably the most common thing that almost everybody has it. And so people start to think it's normal because it's so common, but really it's not normal. And I've even heard doctors say like, yeah, well, you just bloat after you eat. That's normal, Bloating is typically fermentation. So, if you've ever popped open like a can of fermented sauerkraut or something that's been in the closet forever and it's got that puffy lid and then it explodes, that's what's going on in our belly. And so there are many different ways that this fermentation it happens. And so finding out which way yours is happening is really important, because let's say, for instance, one person is having the fermentation because they are eating in a stressed state. And eating in a stressed state shuts your digestion down. Like any kind of stress, watching the news, checking your email, yelling at the kids, like any state of stress, your body will say, we need energy to deal with this stress. So we're going to shut down digestion because it takes the most energy. So one person could be eating in a stressed state and their food just sits there because their digestion shut down, and then they get bloated because that food ferments. For another person, it could be that they have taken acid blockers or PPIs or something like that for many years because let's say they had heartburn and the doctor said, here's a prescription for omeprazole, just take this every day. Then that reduces their stomach acid. And now there's nothing there to break their food down. So now their food is sitting in their belly and it ferments. So we've got these two different people who have the same bloating, but two very different reasons. So we need to treat these people differently, right? We need to teach this person that they have to eat in a mindful state. So eating in a mindful state, just thinking about it right now, I can feel my saliva getting released. So eating in a mindful state means we look at our food, we smell it, we get excited to eat it. And what happens, like you could do a little test right now. Like think of your absolute favorite food, like the one food you would want to eat every day. And then just picture taking a big bite of it and putting it in your mouth and how much you love it. You probably can feel a little bit of saliva being released, or imagine like biting into a lemon, like cutting open a lemon, biting into it. You can probably feel that saliva coming out. Well, that's good. That means your body is ready to digest, because the digestion starts here with our teeth and our saliva. And then that signals down to the rest of the body. Okay, now we need stomach acid. Now we need digestive enzymes. We need bile flow. So it's a whole process, but it starts here. If we eat in a stressed state and the saliva doesn't get released, nothing else gets released downstream. So eating in a mindful state is making sure that that saliva gets released. That's how you know your body is ready to eat. So you relax, take a couple of deep breaths. Maybe you show some gratitude for your food. Maybe you look around and talk to the people you're eating with instead of just rushing through the food, right? So eating in a mindful state. And I know this word mindful gets so thrown around that it starts to lose meaning a little bit. So I just tell people, like, if you're eating in a mindful state, you can feel that saliva get released, right? So that's what we have person A doing, is eating in a more mindful state, chewing. A lot of people are just putting food in and swallowing, and I'm guilty of that because 25 years in the restaurant business, like I had 60 seconds to eat dinner, right? And then person B, we need to get them off these acid blockers, but you don't just stop, right? So we need to wean them off and get their body to start producing stomach acid again. Because imagine if you eat a steak and you just dip it in like water, what's going to happen? Nothing. The steak is going to stay exactly like a steak. Or you dip it in a vat of hot bubbling acid, the steak is going to dissipate. So that's what we want our stomach to be. We want our stomach to be hot bubbling acid. And if we tell our body to stop making acid with acid blockers, then we have this environment where we put the food in and the food is just going to sit there. It's our body is going to have to work so hard. So now when you put the food from the stomach into the small intestine, it's not really broken down. Now your small intestine cannot absorb the nutrients. Then it gets passed down to the large intestine and your gut bacteria start to ferment it. And you end up with all these toxic byproducts because the food was supposed to be broken down in the stomach and absorbed in the small intestine. So now you have these toxic byproducts that build up and create pressure. Then everything has to push upward. And so you get this fermentation, this bloating, this upward pressure. So with this person, we need to do something different than this person, right? So finding that root cause is really important. And that's why, working with a practitioner or finding a way where you can figure out the root cause of your issue is huge. But those are two main things that you can kind of figure out, like, okay, I am eating in a stress state. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to chew my food. I'm going to enjoy. It's really going to help that bloating. And on the other hand, so many people are on acid blockers, and I understand it because you have heartburn and your doctor says it's okay to just take this indefinitely, but really it says on the package to only take for 2 weeks. So I have clients that have been taking it for 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's a process to get them off and to get that stomach acid built back up again.
Yeah. Okay. So these are definitely things that a lot of people listening are going to be dealing with, some kind of an acid blocker or PPI, and eating in a rushed state. I'm guilty as well. I'm a mom of 3, and it can be like, just get it in.
Yeah.
I've noticed that about myself. Okay. So these are some of the things that could really create that bloating and create that poor environment for digestion and a good environment for that fermentation that we don't want in our gut. All right, a couple questions came in, so I'm going to hop over to that. Carla says, is the gut microbiome just one single test from drawing blood, or how? Yeah, that's
okay. I love this question. And I just did a post about it today because I have like this whole new exciting thing going on in the world of gut microbiome testing. So you do an at-home stool test. In fact, I just did my own today. I did my fourth test of all time today. So I don't have any gut issues anymore, but mine is more for optimization and prevention. Like, I just want to make sure I'm totally optimized so I can prevent health issues in the future. So you just do a little at-home stool test. You take a little scoop. It's not that fun, but it's not that big of a deal either. You put it in your little sample kit, mail it off. When the lab gets it, they will do this whole wonderful testing on it, and they will contact me. I meet with the lab for an hour. We go through your whole health history, all your symptoms, because it's really more putting puzzle pieces together based on your symptoms, based on what has happened to you. Like, even sort of emotional traumatic events can cause things to look different on your test. And then what's really great is just today, which is coincidental that I'm actually here today, is that there is a whole new process that this Microbiome Labs has come up with because of AI, where they can make your basically digital twin. They enter everything they know about you and your whole test results, make this digital twin, and then they test various protocols on this digital twin to see how you progress. And they come up with the best protocol based on that. And they also include over 220,000 current studies, which, microbiome studies have really only started in the last 10 years, I would say. So they take 220,000 current studies and all the information from those studies, which we never could do before AI, right? And really dial in between the AI twin, the 220,000 studies, and then my own human, eyes looking at your results. And we put together a personalized protocol for you, supplements, foods, behaviors, really anything we can think of, and give you this usually 6-month protocol.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. And that kind of answers also, I had that question of like, how long does it take? Like, I've worked with some people that have gut issues and worked on helping them to heal that leaky gut.
Mhm.
And the question always is, how long how long is it going to take to heal a leaky gut?
Yeah. So the actual gut lining itself can rebuild in 5 days, which is crazy. Like the body is always regenerating new cells and getting rid of old cells. Uh, we make the new cells out of what we put in. So one of the biggest problems I see, and I know you see this as well, is under eating. So we have to be eating enough. We have to be eating enough nutrients. We have to be getting polyphenols and antioxidants and you know what we want to build our body out of. We need to put in. So one of the things I see is under eating, and so we really can't make enough good cells if we're not getting enough input. So you can rebuild your gut in 5 days. Now that's not to say that's the solution, because your first line of defense in your gut is your microbiome. We have more bacteria than we do human cells, which is kind of crazy. So we're actually a bacterial
Host.
ecosystem with sort of a human shell, really. And so we need those bacteria to be the best bacteria we can find. And we need to have a lot of variety. If you think of your gut like a warehouse, and you have 200 different kinds of employees in your warehouse, you got to have shipping and accounting and right, all the different things. That's how you want to think about your gut microbiome too. You need to have we want to have ideally like 200 different species of bacteria down there doing all these wonderful jobs. And that's your first line of defense against leaky gut, is your bacteria. So it's not
Mm.
just about building the gut lining, but it's about building up your gut microbiome as well, to make sure that you're protected in the future. So that is really, what is going to take the time as far as rebuilding. And we can see on your test, you know, I've seen some tests where it's like, oh, this isn't bad. We can just tweak a few things here and there, and it'll probably take a few months. And then there are some tests that's like, okay, let's be honest here. This is going to take longer to rebuild, but it's possible. It's always possible. And when we can see exactly what you need to do, it makes it so much faster because we're not guessing.
Mm. Amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for that answer. I
Mm.
am going to jump to Andrea's question because this is a super great question. How does Manjaro, and I'm going to throw in all GLP-1s,
Mhm.
affect the gut, and what can be done to counter that?
Yes, wonderful question. And this is not talked about enough. I have nothing against GLP-1s if they are used properly, which unfortunately is not happening all the time.
Mhm.
We really need to give the body more support than we would give it otherwise when we are using a drug like this. Because, well, A, you can lose a lot of muscle. So we need to make sure we're eating enough and we're exercising so that we can replace that muscle that can be lost. But also it slows down gut motility, to keep you fuller longer is, I think, the mechanism of what they want it to be doing. But the problem with that is, just like we're talking about, just like with the low stomach acid, that's slowing down gut motility because the food now can't go through the digestive tract in the proper amount of time. So a lot of things can get thrown off. There can be that over fermentation. There can be uh, um, dysbiosis, which is just kind of an imbalance in gut bacteria. When we slow that down, we can get constipated, we can get nauseous, we can get bloated. So it, it's kind of a tough one because you want the slow motility, so you stay fuller longer so that you lose weight. But we also want the food to move through at a good pace. So it's kind of a tough thing. I would say get more nutrients than you think you need. Eat food that's easy to digest so that the body doesn't have to work as hard. So I like things like, if I'm going for the easiest to digest, blended soups. Like
Mm.
blended soups, you can put tons of different things in there. You can make it with bone broth. You can put
Mm.
vegetables in there. You can put all kinds of things in there, blend it up, and it's warm. So things that are warm are always easier to digest. You can get tons of nutrients in a blended soup, but your body doesn't have to really work hard to break it down. So if we're slowing down that motility, we're not going to add on the problem of your stomach not being able to break down the food, because basically if it's a blended soup, it's already broken down. It's already in the form that we want it to be in. So I would say be easy on the digestion. And I would say getting a gut microbiome test, so that, anything you take is going to affect your microbiome. Everything you do, everything you stress out about, walking outside in nature, the way you sleep, every single thing you do is going to affect your microbiome. So especially things like this that are going to have a big effect on the gut are going to affect your microbiome. So I would say testing the gut would be a brilliant thing to do, so that you can see exactly how to support your gut, so that this addition that you're doing into your body isn't having such a big impact.
That makes so much sense. And it also kind of ties into another question that I have about your pillar number 3, which was the detox.
Yeah.
So tell us, because, the women that I'm working with that are on GLP-1s struggle a lot with constipation. And I think that there's a lot of connection here with your pillar on detox and constipation. So can you talk a little bit about what detox looks like and how constipation is going to affect the microbiome?
Yeah. So it's very common to have that problem because of the slow motility. Slow motility basically equals constipation. So when we're constipated, we're also not getting toxins out of the body quickly enough. So that's how we remove toxins out of our body, is through pooping mostly, peeing. We can also sweat. We can also breathe. We exhale toxins as we breathe. So I teach breath work, which is a great addition to not only help your nervous system, but to also help the detox process. So what we want to think about is that detox is 2 parts: supporting your natural detox process, because the body is brilliant and it has this brilliant system. So we just want to make sure we're supporting that system. So supporting the liver, supporting the kidneys, supporting the lungs. But then the other piece is stop putting toxins in, right? So we want to look at a few things when we talk about the toxins that go in the body. Of course, our water and our food carry toxins more now than they did in our grandparents' day, unfortunately. So we need to be mindful of making sure we have filtered water, trying to buy organic food if we can, trying to avoid like those ultra processed foods that have a lot of chemicals that our body is not going to recognize. Anything the body doesn't recognize, it's going to see as a toxin, and it's going to have to try and fight it off. So whole foods, organic foods, clean waters, like number 1. But then we also have to think about what we put on our body. So anything that we put on our skin is going to absorb into the bloodstream and needs to go through the liver. And so a lot of people think the liver is mostly for like alcohol, which it is, but everything we also breathe and put on our skin and in our body also goes through the liver. So really reducing our environmental toxins is going to be huge. So laundry detergent, dish soap, anything with fragrance in the house, anything with that word fragrance. There's a loophole where that word fragrance can be like any one of 13,000 chemicals, and they don't have to tell you what they are. So the word fragrance is to really be avoided. You can get things that have natural smell if you really like to have something with a smell. So those Glade plugins, dryer sheets, like anything with those strong fragrances, your body is going to have a hard time with those. And it's constant, right? Anything in your home is what your body has to constantly deal with. It's okay if you get into an Uber and they have 19 trees hanging from the mirror, like that's a one-time situation, but anything that you have in your home is what your body is going to constantly be dealing with. So that kind of 2-part of trying to get rid of as many toxins as you can in your environment and what you eat, and then just supporting your body's natural detox process at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So I know we've covered a ton, and I want to make sure that we are super clear on the title of this talk today.
Yes.
Was the 4 main keys or something to reducing bloating. So I want you to Let us know. Maybe you've already told us them, but we can package it up nicely now.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of it, but I would say things that you can do today to help your bloating. Four main things. So number one is that slowing down. Get your body into rest and digest. Like whatever happened to our lunch breaks, right? Nobody gets lunch breaks anymore. I would say if you cannot take a lunch break and you have to work through lunch, have something like a shake or a blended soup, something your body doesn't really have to work hard to do. But other than that, if you absolutely cannot take a lunch break, that's not right, first of all. But besides that, right, we should be able to be more conscious of how we're eating. And eating outside is wonderful. Like anything in nature immediately gets you into rest and digest. So doing whatever you can to eat in that relaxed state, and then just notice your saliva. That's number one. Like that is going to help so much with the whole bloating process. Number two is that stomach acid that we talked about. So like I said, don't just stop your acid blockers. You want to talk to your doctor about weaning off of them. But weaning off of them is really going to be important, but you need to have a plan to build your stomach acid without having all the recurring heartburn. So surprisingly enough, because most people think that heartburn is too much stomach acid, it's really too little. And there's, I could go another hour into that, but surprisingly enough, apple cider vinegar helps with heartburn. It seems like putting acid into your body would be counterintuitive. But if you just take, and you want to start slow, with anything you start, you want to start slow. Take about a teaspoon and put it into just a couple of ounces of warm water and drink that before you eat, and work up to a tablespoon and see if you can do a tablespoon before your meals. And you want to put it in warm water, not cold water. And you don't want to have too much to drink around meals. So that's why I say you want to dilute it, but not too much, because water is going to dilute your stomach acid even further. So we want to really try and avoid drinking water before, during, and right after meals. I don't drink water for about an hour surrounding every meal, because we want to keep that stomach acid strong. So a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Bitters is great, and you can get a bitters tincture. You'll know, like you'll put this bitters on your tongue and whoosh, all your saliva will come out. So that means that's going to work all the way down the digestive tract to get the stomach acid and everything else to come out as well. So you can get a bitters tincture, but you can also eat bitter foods. Like arugula, dandelion greens are great. So like making like a little arugula salad with some apple cider vinegar dressing and some lemon and honey would be like a great way to start your meal. Have something bitter and acidic before your meal.
Mm.
And then, so did we do two? Rest and digest, stomach acid. And then, food timing. So your body likes to have a break in between eating. And a lot of times people are grazing. So just kind of having a handful of nuts or a handful of this or that. And what the body really loves is meal, break, meal, break. So every 90 minutes or so, the body goes through a cleansing wave. So you want the body to have as many cleansing waves as it can. So if you can go 3 to 4 hours between meals, like nothing but water, that gives your body these cleansing waves. And that can start to move the food through at an appropriate time, so that by the time you eat your next meal, you're not still digesting your last meal. Because every time you eat, the digestion is like, okay, we got to start the process all over again. So meal timing throughout the day, and then really giving your body a nice digestive break overnight, at least 12 hours, like 12, I would say would be the minimum, but probably not more than about 14 or 15 if you are a woman. Men, they can basically do whatever they want, and they're very resilient because they don't have our wonderful, delicate hormones. But I would say about 12 to 14 hours. So if you stop eating at 7 p.m., wait until maybe 8 the next morning to eat, that would be 13 hours. It just gives your body the time and the space without digesting to get rid of things that we don't want to be there. And then your digestion is your most energy producing or energy taking process in the body. So every time we put food in, you're taking all this energy to digest. So giving it that break will really help. And then, like we were talking about with the constipation. So constipation is a cause of bloating, because if you're all backed up from the bottom up and there's nowhere for anything to go, right, the whole process is going to slow down. And pooping every day is so important. And I know that doctors are saying that you don't have to poop every day, but I mean, you really got to poop every day. Some people have a great microbiome. There's a big difference. Sometimes they will poop and they will just have amazing bowels. You want to have that snake-like bowel movement, and that's fine, and they don't do it every day. But I would say, as a general rule, have that snake-like bowel movement 1 to even 3 times a day would be great. If you can do it 3 times a day, you're really moving that food through at a good pace. But a lot of people can't do that because they're at work or they're running around and things like that. But 1 a day is great. If you can get that good, if you've ever seen the Bristol stool chart, the number 4 is what you want to go for. If you can get that good number 4 poop every day, that will help, because then you're not getting all backed up and getting that bloating. So rest and digest while you eat, improve your stomach acid, the meal timing, make sure you get some spaces without grazing or snacking. A snack is fine. You don't have to do it. You don't have to be like militant about it, but trying to give your body as many breaks as possible. And then if you're constipated, really addressing that constipation. So those are my 4 main ways, but bloating has endless root causes and really so many different ways that we can go about it too.
Yeah, I think that's a really great place to start, though, with those 4 things. So thank you so much for that. I think it helps a lot. And I have a few rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah.
So, like gut health and weight loss, do you notice that when your patients come to you and they heal their gut, do you notice any connection with their ability to release weight at that point?
I do. So I've had a couple of clients that have had, weight problems their whole life and will finally get their gut in order, and then they'll shed like 40 pounds.
Mhm.
And they're amazed because they've tried everything to lose weight. But what they didn't realize is when the gut isn't working and your body doesn't feel healthy and safe, it doesn't want to safely release the weight. And your body can hold on to toxins in fat cells, especially around your belly, because your body's trying to protect your internal organs from the toxins. So it can go, oh, let's be smart, and we'll take these toxins and put them in fat cells. And it doesn't really want to release that fat cell because it's going to release the toxin. So that detox process is really a really important part of the process. But you have gut bacteria that help you lose weight. You have gut bacteria that can make you gain weight. So your whole microbiome is involved in every process in your body. Every process. You have a gut-skin connection. You have a gut-lung connection, gut-brain connection, gut-bone connection, gut-lung. Like, everything is connected to the gut. So if your gut isn't working right, I would say focus on that. And then focus on the weight loss. A lot of people kind of do it flip-flopped. They want to lose the weight, but they're really unhealthy. I would focus on the health part, and then the weight loss becomes so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Okay. And so you had mentioned at the beginning that one of your symptoms was anxiety, and you just mentioned that gut-brain connection. Can you speak for a second on that?
Yes. And this is something that I am so very fascinated with. You may have heard of GABA, probably as a supplement. So this is actually a neurotransmitter that we make in our gut. So we have gut bacteria that make GABA in our gut, and it's a brain calming neurotransmitter. And the neurotransmitters work by the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve starts in the brain and it fingers down through our organs. And that's how we have this bidirectional communication system between the gut and the brain. And what I can see on gut tests for all the people that have anxiety is they're literally making zero GABA in the gut, like zero. I was at zero. So you can supplement with it, yes, but that doesn't solve the problem. We now know how to get the body to create its own GABA. So create that neurotransmitter that calms the brain. So what I like to do is a little bit of both, like supplement with it so you can kind of start to feel better right away, but then also support the body at the root and get the body to start making GABA on its own so that you can have a lifetime of being anxiety free, where the supplement is temporary. And that's kind of how I think about all supplements. They're all temporary. You don't want to have to take something every day for the rest of your life for the most part. So let's get the body working so it can do all of this stuff on its own and we don't have to supplement every day forever.
Yeah. I love that answer. Awesome. And now this question is really related to even a personal experience that I've had, but I know that a lot of the people listening are going to relate to this. And that is when I swear it was my birthday, my 45th birthday. I swear it was like that day, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I would bloat like randomly. Is there like a connection between perimenopause specifically and bloating? Because I know it's a very common perimenopause symptom.
Yes. Yes. And it's funny because we talked about this, but mine was my 47th birthday. And mine was, I was all of a sudden warm all the time. And then I gained 15 pounds. Like literally on my birthday, it just started. So I can relate. So our hormones are directly related to our gut. Like you almost can't even think of it as two separate things. Like it's all one system. And there are even studies now showing, because they never used to do any studies on women because our bodies are too complicated. So all this science that we've ever had on health was all based on men. So they're just now starting to do studies. But there was one that I was reading about where the HRT replacing the estrogen after, your estrogen just usually drops out, actually improves the gut microbiome. And so there's a big connection there. Also, the sleep that we tend to lose, like when we don't have a good night's sleep, our gut microbiome gets depleted. So think about all that sleeplessness we have in menopause, all is depleting our gut microbiome. There's also a group of bacteria called the astrobolome, and it has such a cool function where it sort of regulates how much estrogen we recycle back through our body and how much estrogen we poop out. So some people start recycling way too much estrogen. Some people are getting rid of too much estrogen. So balancing that astrobolome too. So it's not just about the hormone replacement, but it's about what your body's actually doing with your own estrogen is a big part of it too. So everything in the body affects everything. I really didn't understand this until the last few years. Our thoughts affect our microbiome. Our sleep affects our hormones affect our skin. Like it's all one big thing, and it all starts in the gut, all of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful way to start wrapping this up. I did notice one more question though in the chat that I want to make sure we address from Andrea. What's the best way to achieve a daily bowel movement?
Yeah.
Great
question. Yes. And so I'm going to go back to my first example of this person and this person who have two very different reasons why they are bloated. We can do the same thing with constipation. So there's so many different underlying reasons. And that's what the test is great for, because then we're not guessing. We can see exactly what's going on. So one of the things that I see is really high methane production. So methane production in your gut equals slow motility. So kind of just like the GLP-1s will create slow motility. You really want to make sure you don't have a methane issue if you're on that GLP-1, because it's going to double time your slow motility, which is opposite of what I mean, but you know what I mean. So if you have a lot of methane producing bacteria in your gut, we want to address those guys. So we want to do a specific protocol to make sure we get rid of that methane producing bacteria. You also might not be eating enough fiber, and I'm sure this is what most people hear all the time, but you don't. So most people are getting there's different studies I've read, but most people are getting like 10 grams and under of fiber per day, and the recommendation is like 30-35. But you don't want to go from 8 to 35 because you're not going to be happy. But adding in just a little bit, and just thinking like when you go to make a meal, how can I put a little bit more plants onto this? Like, can I top this with pumpkin seeds and sprouts, right? So always kind of thinking of like, how can I get a little bit more fiber, but like clean, good, digestible fiber, not going too crazy with it and not doing Metamucil. Like Metamucil has all these terrible ingredients in it. We want to try and get it from food first. And there are fiber supplements, and there are ones that are better for constipation, and there are ones that are better for loose stools. So people have chronic loose stools. So you want to make sure if you are supplementing, that you're getting the right kind of fiber. So I actually like to use the word fibers, not fiber, because people think of fiber as one thing, but there's actually many, many, many different kinds of fibers. So you want to make sure that you're getting the right kinds for your issues. Hydration. Even if you think you're getting enough water, like I would try and track it. So one thing I have my clients do, like for instance, this bottle is 22 ounces, and you want to get about half your body weight in ounces of water per day. So I need to drink about 75 ounces of water. So I just know that I need to drink about 4 of these. So, and I don't track anymore, but you can take a hair tie and put how many you need on your bottle. And then every time you finish a bottle, you take off 1 hair tie. And by the end of the day, you should have 0. And that's a good way to track, because I think people think that they're drinking enough and they're really not. So that hydration is really important. Minerals. Whew, we are so mineral depleted. Our food is depleted because farmers are using poor farming practices, and the soil doesn't have the nutrients that it used to. So we are only as healthy as our soil, and our soil is so depleted. So we need to be mindful about making sure we get minerals into our body. So this is going to come from real whole foods. I like to put mineral drops in my water to make sure. I actually have a whole house filter as well that mineralizes our water. But really trying to make sure that most of what you are eating is mineral rich foods, which is whole foods. Anytime we eat, chemicals or pesticides, things like that, they can bind to our minerals and make them not usable by our body. So we want to kind of avoid as many chemicals as we can so that we're not losing the minerals that we are eating. But trying to buy local, like farmers markets and things like that, usually your local farmer is going to have better soil than a big farm would. So buying local and farmers markets, things like that. But really knowing your gut bacteria is huge. Making sure you have enough of the good and making sure you get rid of the, I don't like to say bad, but get rid of the sort of troublemaker bacteria is just going to help those bowel issues. You can also, like when I get out of the shower in the morning and I'm putting lotion on my body, I take my fingertips and do a circular massage around the stomach. And you can feel in there from day to day, you can feel the difference. Like if you're backed up, you can feel it, and you can circularly, if that's a word, massage and get things moving through your body that way as well. It's a good supportive tool.
Wow. So many great tips for helping with the bowel movements. I appreciate that so much. And I want to respect your time because I know we're coming up on time. There are a couple real quick questions in the
Yes.
chat, if you don't mind. How does
Yeah.
gut health affect mental health? I know you kind of addressed that, but maybe just a quick recap of that.
Yeah. So they're calling the gut the second brain. They've been kind of saying that for a little bit. They're actually now calling the gut the brain because they're not two different things. So like when we're an embryo, the gut and the brain are made out of the same stem cells. So it's really one thing. They're just separated by a nerve, but it's really the same thing. So by improving our bacteria and our gut health, there's no way we wouldn't be improving our mental health, and vice versa. Every time we get stressed, or if we're holding on to anger or trauma or resentment, things like that, all of that can also affect our gut bacteria and how we're digesting. So it goes both ways. It's not one or the other. But I would say, one of the biggest pieces is that neurotransmitter production that I talked about, and getting the vagus nerve, which is how the neurotransmitters can talk back and forth. Getting good vagal tone, getting the vagus nerve to be more productive is great. So humming, breath work. So I do breath work every day. I teach breath work in my program. I'm a huge fan because it is so good for so many things. But doing breath work, or that deep breathing, most people are breathing so shallow up here, getting that deep breathing stimulates the vagus nerve. Humming, so humming your favorite song or just taking a deep breath, humming it out. You can feel the vibration, and it vibrates that vagus nerve. So anything you can do to stimulate that vagus nerve, there's actual devices you can wear to stimulate it too. Like, so just while you're working or watching TV, you could have it on, and it could be working that way. But anything you can do to improve that communication back and forth is going to help that gut health, mental health connection.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much, Marissa, for being here. I would love for you to share how people can connect with you, how they can find you. And while Marissa is doing that, I would love for the ladies here tonight to show some love and for Marissa's talk in the chat. Let us know what your aha moment was. Let us know what you thought about having this amazing talk and amazing special guest here tonight. So throw that in the chat while Marissa explains to us how we can connect.
I will. This is probably the best way. I'll just drop my Facebook group in the chat. So you can join my Facebook group. It's called Nutrition for Women with Digestive Issues. We cover a lot more than nutrition, but that is where I do a lot of my free trainings, and I give away a lot of free resources and things like that. And then I was going to drop a free resource here, but the link wasn't working. So let me get that sorted out. I always have tech issues every day of my life.
I understand.
Yeah, so I can always send that to you later. But in that Facebook group, I've got tons of free trainings. And then Lucy will be joining me in that group next week to talk about weight loss. So you'll want to join to see that too. Yeah, tech issues, I swear, every day I'm like,
Yep.
Is it me? Am I just a magnet for it? So
yeah, exactly. And I'll include your link to your Facebook group and the link to the resource. I'll include that when I post the replay so that it's attached to the video here too.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I love your questions and everybody for showing up. I know it's not your ideal thing that you want to do, on a Wednesday evening. So I appreciate that you show up for yourselves and are willing to learn. So it's great.
Yes, yes. I appreciate it so much. I love this topic so much because it's so connected to everything. And so I appreciate you being here. Della says, thanks so much, Marissa. It's amazing to learn about more about our gut health and how to improve it. Kathy says, thank you so much. I've learned so much. Andrea says, thank you, Marissa. Really glad I made this call.
Oh, good.
And
I'm glad too.
yeah,
Thank you.
I appreciate everyone for showing up tonight, showing up for yourselves, showing up for your health and being here. And so thank you so much, Marissa, for coming.
Yes, you're welcome. Hope you all have a wonderful night. And then I will see you in the group next week.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much.